Slow-moving crises are not crises. They're problems, not emergencies.
In 2021, you said that the potential rise of global temperatures by 4 degrees Celsius due to climate change is, quote, not an emergency, and even made fun of top scientists for calling climate change a climate emergency. A new study by the Journal of Natural Science says that if by the end of the century, climate change will total up to 83 million deaths because of climate-related causes.
Yeah, they're wrong. Sorry, go ahead, but continue, but I'll explain why. Go ahead.
I'm wondering, Ben, why you believe that climate change is not an emergency.
Okay, because they're wrong. So now here's the, sorry, I didn't let you get to the question mark. The reason that they are wrong is because all of these studies are done in the absence of mitigating measures. So as I've said before, when I talk about climate change, when you're talking about climate change, there are a couple of things human beings can do. And by the way, I accept IPCC estimates. They range from sort of the mild, like 1.5 degrees Celsius, all the way up to the not very mild, like 4 degrees Celsius, again, over the course of the century. And because there is this range, the more extreme versions of this, the 4 degrees Celsius, whenever you read the IPCC reports, which I have, when you read those reports, they say in them that they have very low confidence that some of the more catastrophic sort of predictions are going to occur. They will say low to moderate confidence. The less catastrophic predictions, they'll say more like high confidence or fair high confidence, that kind of stuff. Okay, here is the thing. When people suggest that there is not going to be any sort of mitigation measures, this is wrong, or adaptation. So there's two ways you can deal with it. One is mitigation, which is we all stop driving cars, we stop using electricity, we don't have kids anymore, right? We really cut down on our carbon usage in ways that are catastrophic to the world economy. And what it really mostly does is it says to people in the developing world, hey, you're screwed. Because those are the people who really need carbon-based emissions. It's very easy for those of us who live in extraordinarily prosperous societies to say, you know what, I'm cutting down my carbon emissions a little bit because we live in very prosperous societies. Carbon-based energy is by far the most efficient form of energy on the planet. And it's worthwhile to notice that people who are living in developing or undeveloped countries, those people are still, in large part, burning things like dung for fuel, which is not only carbon intensive, but also a horrifying way to live. And telling those people you can't use carbon-based energy is a mistake. In order for us to take the mitigation measures that would be necessary in order to dramatically lower the trajectory of global climate change, you'd have to get China to sign on, which they will not. You'd have to get India to sign on, which they will not. Those are the two largest carbon-based emitters on planet Earth. And we live in a geopolitical world in which a carbon emission from China counts the same as a carbon emission from the United States, which says, again, this doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. It means what we ought to be doing is the thing that will prevent the 83 million deaths, which is why I'm very confident it will prevent the 83 million deaths, adaptation. This means, for example, that we build seawalls. The simple fact of the matter is that New Orleans exists below sea level. When the seawalls, when levees were breached because the levees were poorly built, it killed 10,000 people. When the levees, last time around, this last year, there was a major hurricane. It swept directly through the exact same area, and pretty much no one was killed. The reason being, the levees were much better built. When you're looking at coastal, low-lying areas, seawalls have been built in places in Miami, in places in Seattle. Geoengineering, which is a methodology that's being explored largely in some of the northern European countries for actually changing the climate itself by, for example, shooting particular types of material into the air. You know, these sorts of solutions are things we should be pursuing. They're a lot easier to do because technology is a lot easier to do than anything remotely approaching a global carbon tax, which will, number one, be unsuccessful, and two, will not mitigate the effects on the climate nearly as much as you're talking about. Human beings are great at adaptation, and we suck at mitigation. And as I've said before and been mocked for it, the simple fact of the matter is over the course of the next 100 years, when you see all these maps and it's like this area will be flooded and all those people will be dead. No, because they won't be living there. Because as it turns out, when the tide rises, people move inland. This is what has been happening throughout human history. Not a huge number of people were killed, presumably, when the land bridge between Russia and Alaska that from which Sarah Palin could see, right? When that land bridge ended up being covered up in water, there weren't tens of thousands of people who died in that because it took thousands of years for that to be covered up by water. Slow-moving crises are not crises. They're problems, not emergencies.